no doubt seen the allegations, including some of them from the last 24 to 48 hours. Are they true?
Welcome to WatchMojo, and today we're looking at the most surprising and unsettling revelations about Bill Gates that have emerged from the U.S. Department of Justice's disclosed documents connected to Jeffrey Epstein. Warning, some information contains distressing details.
And he revealed other damning specifics, saying the men flew together on a private jet and that they hung out in Germany, France, New York, and Washington.
Affairs with Russian women.
In a town hall meeting with employees, Gates admitting to 2 affairs with Russian women.
Shockingly, this revelation didn't outright come from released Epstein documents, but from Bill Gates' own admission. It also reshapes what we know about the private life of one of the richest and most influential people in the world. The tech trailblazer, long known for his work building Microsoft and later global health initiatives, admitted in a Gates Foundation meeting that he had 2 extramarital affairs with Russian women during his 27-year marriage to ex-wife Melinda French Gates.
For me, it's personally hard whenever those details come up, right? Because brings back memories of some very, very painful times in my marriage, but I have moved on from that.
One was a competitive bridge player, the other a Russian nuclear physicist. Of course, the timing of this admission matters as it comes after the newly released Epstein files reignited scrutiny of Gates' private interactions with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. And just like that, Bill Gates' carefully curated public image faces a new, unexpected spotlight.
As I said, it's not one thing, it was many things. But I did not like that he'd had meetings with Jeffrey Epstein.
Epstein's draft emails allege STD.
Epstein claims that Gates got an STD after having relations with Russian girls.
The newly released Epstein files gave the public a rare look into the behind-the-scenes communications of one of history's most infamous financiers, Jeffrey Epstein. Among these files were draft emails referring to personal rumors about Bill Gates. The draft messages allege that Gates had sexual encounters with, quote, Russian girls and contracted an infection.
This apology follows the release of a batch of Epstein files, which featured Bill Gates a number of times, including an email exchange where Epstein claimed Gates had caught a sexually transmitted infection after sleeping with Russian girls.
They go on to claim that he asked someone to obtain antibiotics so he could give them, quote, surreptitiously to his then-wife Melinda. Gates' spokesperson has labeled these unsent messages as fabrications and states that they are, quote, wildly false.
That email was never sent. The email is, false. So I don't know what his thinking was there. Was he trying to attack me in some way?
Because Epstein was notorious for documenting the private lives of powerful figures, this revelation only deepens concerns about Gates' interactions with him. Redacted photos of unidentified women.
Another shows the Microsoft co-founder and billionaire Bill Gates posing with a woman whose face has also been redacted.
The DOJ's release of the Epstein files didn't just reveal new documents, it also unveiled a new set of unsettling images. Within the thousands of pages were photographs of Bill Gates standing with women whose faces are completely redacted by federal officials. Though the photos come from different settings, they all appear to have been taken at events where Epstein and Gates both attended, typically for philanthropic or business-related discussions. Federal redactions make it impossible to identify the women or know their ages. The U.S. government has not released additional context about who they are or why their faces were obscured. However, Gates' representatives have stressed that the photos show nothing improper, and that Epstein frequently took photos with influential figures as part of his networking efforts.
The Microsoft founder also featured in a couple of photos with anonymous women, who Gates has said were only Epstein's assistants.
Still, the combination of blacked-out faces, Epstein's reputation, and the timing of the release give these photos a disconcerting life of their own.
Can't even begin to know all of it. Those questions are for those people and for even my ex-husband. They need to answer to those things, not me.
Extensive meetings and travel with Epstein.
It's factually true that I was only at dinners. I never went to the island. I never met any women. And so, the more that comes out, the more clear it'll be that although the time was a mistake, it had nothing to do with that kind of behavior.
Before the release of the files, Bill Gates described his contact with Jeffrey Epstein as limited and focused on philanthropic discussions. However, the newly disclosed calendar logs and emails tell a different story. Records show Gates met with Epstein repeatedly in locations including New York, Germany, France, and Washington, D.C., to name a few. These included dinners, project discussions, and travel planning. Further documents show Gates traveled with Epstein on Epstein's private plane, dubbed the Lolita Express by the media.
Gates acknowledged his association probably helped Epstein rehabilitate his image, and he revealed other damning specifics, saying the men flew together on a private jet.
He maintains that he never stayed overnight at Epstein's private residences, nor did he witness any illicit behavior.
It's not going to do you any favors, but it doesn't prove guilt either.
Gates has acknowledged that the meetings were a, quote, huge mistake. But the sheer number of interactions surprised many observers, especially since the tech mogul previously downplayed the extent of it.
It just reminds me, every minute I spent with him, I regret and I, apologize that I did that.
Relationship occurred after Epstein's conviction.
He acknowledged that his relationship with Epstein began after Epstein was convicted of soliciting a minor.
One of the most consequential and scrutinized revelations in the Epstein documents is the timeline of their relationship. You see, Jeffrey Epstein had been convicted in 2008 for soliciting a minor and was a registered sex offender. Yet logs and emails confirm that Gates and Epstein met well after the latter's crimes were public record. This included multiple dinners, meetings, and discussions. Gates has since acknowledged the relationship and timeframe, and insists that he believed Epstein could help with philanthropic fundraising.
Yeah, I met Jeffrey in 2011. The focus was always, he knew a lot of very rich people, and he was saying he could get them to give money to global health.
Still, for many, the issue isn't just that they met, it's that Gates made the connection long after Epstein's damning conviction.
And there's also this February 2011 message where Epstein emailed an individual whose name is redacted saying, quote, "You and I are invited to Seattle to spend serious time with Bill Gates." And again, Aaron, all of this occurring years after his 2008 conviction.
Allowed Epstein direct access. A detail that caught many observers of the Epstein files off guard is the fact that Bill Gates repeatedly allowed Jeffrey Epstein to participate in high-level Gates Foundation meetings, ostensibly about global health and educational philanthropy. What makes this particularly disturbing is that Epstein had already been convicted when the access was granted.
If you want to be this, credible figure on vaccines and this allegedly delicious synthetic meat and climate change and all these things that Bill Gates does, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to start a relationship with a convicted human trafficker.
The files show that Epstein attended multiple dinners and took detailed notes, ultimately being directly involved in discussions and strategic initiatives. The files confirm he gave Epstein unusual access to professional spaces. Allowing a convicted criminal such proximity to a sensitive foundation raises questions about Bill Gates' judgment and boundaries.
And he claimed that he, one of the wealthiest men in the world, did not properly research Epstein's background that would have revealed his sordid past. Knowing what I know now makes it, 100 times worse.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Epstein tried to turn personal knowledge into leverage.
He was a narcissist. He had no ability to feel empathy.
Perhaps the most disturbing insight from the documents was how Epstein appeared to view Gates not just as a professional contact, but as someone whose private vulnerabilities and public influence could be strategically useful.
He knew so much from so many different people.
Emails and draft messages show Epstein repeatedly positioning himself as a facilitator who could connect Gates to the ultra-rich and high-level donors. In those same communications, Epstein referenced knowing about Gates' extramarital affairs. However, there is no evidence Epstein ever blackmailed Gates. But the documents strongly suggest Epstein believed this personal knowledge gave him leverage.
He had a lot of information on a lot of people, a lot of blackmail videos and pictures.
It all fits a broader pattern where the disgraced financier gathered sensitive information about powerful figures to elevate his own status and deepen his access to elite networks.
I was one of many people who regret ever knowing him.
What do you make of Bill Gates' past relationship with Jeffrey Epstein? Does it change how you view the Microsoft trailblazer? Share your thoughts on the matter in the comments.